In the previous video, we set up proxy pools after we upgraded from version 7 to version 8. Now it's time to convert those from Windows to Linux proxies. I've already deployed 4 Linux servers in my lab with the dotnet repository added in and installed. So now the next step is to go ahead and add these into VB365. I'm going to go to my backup proxies, right click, add a new repository, put in the FQDN of my first Linux proxy. And because this is my home lab, I'm simply going to use SSH, but as you can see, you can use keys as well. Now, this is going to fail on authentication after I do the SSH verification because I forgot to go into advanced and check the option to elevate to root. So after this fails, we'll go in, check the button elevate to root. You can see there's some advanced options there too, depending on how you have your user set up in your Linux system. Now, once we proceed, again, verify the SSH key, it's going to proceed as normal. I'm going to use the default option for this Veeam 365 backup account on the Linux server to run the services. And at this point, it's going to check to see if there's any missing requirements, preparing that proxy for installation. But one thing I forgot to do when I set up these servers was to exclude .NET to be updated, because one thing we don't want is for .NET on those Linux servers to be updated automatically, as it might take it out of sync with the version that's supported here with VB365. So I went ahead and cut over to those servers. You don't see it, but I went ahead and excluded those repositories. I'll post that KB down in the description below so you know what to follow on how to do that. And now it's proceeded as normal. It's installing the proxy, and we'll speed this part up a little bit so we don't sit here for a minute. After my first proxy is done, you can see it shows up in the console. It does have the little Penguin Linux icon next to it. So we're going to speed through adding the 3 additional Linux proxies as well. Again, I went through the KB listed in the description to apply that .NET repo restriction from auto updating. Now that I have all 4 of my Linux proxy servers in the UI here, I can go to my pools, my proxy pools that I created, and I'm going to edit. And you can see I've got my 2 Windows servers here. I'm going to add in my first 2 Linux servers. And now I can also remove my Windows servers from this proxy pool. And as seamless as that, my proxy pool for my mail now only uses Linux proxies and no longer Windows proxies. I'll go ahead and start the job so we can come back, just make sure everything's processing properly. So we'll let this run for a second. And at this point, we'll go back to the proxy pools and we'll make some additional edits there as well, because I still have my OneDrive job and I still have my SharePoint job that are running on those Windows proxies. Again, we're going to go in, choose edit. You can add and remove any proxies you need here as needed. I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 Linux proxy this time, not do 2. And instead of choosing remove, you can see that I simply just unchecked my Windows servers there. And that will do the same thing as remove them from the pool. So I'll just lastly repeat that process on my SharePoint Teams proxy pool, choose to add my last Linux proxy, and I'll uncheck the Windows. Oops, I checked a Windows server there. I'll check my Linux proxy, uncheck my Windows server. So now that this pool is using a single Linux proxy. So it shows how you can easily scale up and down your pools as needed. So if you need additional servers in there to act as proxies, you can add them in, remove them. Now I want to remove my Windows servers. You can see I can't do that all at once in bulk. So one at a time, I simply go to backup proxies, right click, choose to remove, verify the credentials that are being used to connect to that proxy, and we'll just simply speed through the uninstallation process of the Veeam services from that Windows machine. And I'll go ahead and repeat this process for those 5 other servers. And we'll speed through that as well. And now after that's done, I have a single Windows server, which is my VB365 controller. And then I have these 4 Linux proxies that are now working in conjunction with each other in my proxy pools. And you can see my mail job went off without a hitch here. No issues on those new Linux proxy servers. It's as simple as that to take your converted proxy pools from Windows to Linux.